we'll see which brother gets the upper hand in this game one, and we'll see if it ends up snowballing a little bit later. But it looks like the game is just about to start. We're heading into our second series of the day. LucifroN playing as the color yellow, spawning in Zushi's Legacy on the north side of this holy island. VortiX playing as the Chinese in the color blue on the southern side. Both players obviously going for that early dock. And it looks like, just like you said, VortiX don't need that lumber camp. Don't have any supervision on it anyway.
Yeah, and actually looking at the map here, LucifroN, he's got a pretty decent spot there when it comes to his meditation garden. He, like, right next to the water, he's got a berry spot right next to the wood line. Oh, and this spot in the middle that Vodka is pointing out as well. Like, look at that. You could be getting 50 gold, 50 stone there per minute. That is actually not bad because you can use the stone for emplacements on water. Another spot there is right next to the wood line there. There's a berry spot, so you can get a lot of wood and the berries as well. So you get a lot of potential resource for ships then.
Using that stone is actually very, very interesting because you talked about naval arrow slits. And especially with docks and getting docks in feudal age and making sure you're able to protect them, making sure ships can't be able to take them down. Things like naval arrow slits are so important. You know, we talk about how good a civilization like the Mongols are on hybrid maps. One, because they can stop the other dock, but two, they get that stone so they can get arrow slits and their docks are safe, right? So putting a meditation garden seems like a really good idea. And plus that little bit of gold that you need, do things like get sprinkled ships, do things like get demos, that could really help you in a resource that can potentially get raided.
Yeah, I mean, having those arrow slits as well, like, for these fights, it means that you're essentially, like, having additional ships there, additional military out on the map, which is stationary, has a lot of health, and does a ton of damage to your opponent. So whenever, like, you can just get a bunch of these arrow slits out, and then you can just camp under your docks, and whenever your opponent wants to take a fight, they're going to be at a disadvantage.
And it makes for such a stalemate, right? It's like if both sides do have naval arrow slits, it's like, well, I don't really want to go to their dock because, you know, the arrow slits are there. And then the other side's like, well, I don't really want to go to their dock either. So eventually, you know, maybe there is a little bit of a stalemate and both sides are going to be able to fish in peace. But I know from seeing on Holy Island and knowing how aggressive these players can be, especially VortiX, maybe we see some shenanigans. All right, maybe we see some forward docks with arrow slits. The potential's there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering right now where exactly the landmark is going to be from LucifroN. He did scout that spot with the double gold, with the double stone, where he could place the meditation garden. The meditation garden for him is also going to be coming in a little bit quicker. In his Tang Dynasty, he's paying a lot less for the age up. So yeah, he could be getting that age up really quickly in as well.
And that could really set a tone, especially in this kind of matchup, right? You get Zushi to get up a little bit quicker. It means you can get your Navy out a little bit quicker, which means your opponent, because they don't have that passive stone yet, and they're trying to get up to feudal, maybe they don't have arrow slits. You could take fights on the other side of the island, which is obviously what you want, right? You don't want to take fights near where your fishing boats are. You don't want to take them while they're gathering food. You got to want to do something. Vodka's taking a look at the sheep count here. VortiX has got about 18. LucifroN with about 13. So VortiX did win the sheep battle. And even though we're talking about fish and we're talking about the food resources there, if some docks and some fishing boats get compromised, that sheep could be a very important play.
Yeah. Something as well to take note of is that both these brothers, they're such brothers, man. Like, both of them just, like, mirror-wise, like, sending out the scout onto the opponent's dock and, like, hitting the villager until he moves back. Looks like LucifroN is going for that meditation garden in the middle there, so that's gonna be a lot of resource for him. 50 gold, 50 stone, just right on the money there. Could have potentially even gone for 75 gold, 25 stone, but I guess, like, getting the stone in a little bit quicker does make a lot of sense, especially on water here with the emplacement. Means that instead of having to wait 6 minutes for a single emplacement, like, you're getting it every 3 minutes.
And, you know, you got to remember, too, with Chinese and Zushi, they build fast, right? I mean, these meditation gardens, you spent the extra time to get those villagers to walk over there to even build the gardens. But because of their build time, it's going to be up pretty quickly. And I know VortiX is going to be able to do that as well on the other side. But maybe he needs a couple more villagers because he wants to catch up. You know, they're both going on 4 right now, but when VortiX does see that LucifroN is going up and has successfully gone up at about the 504 mark, it's going to take a little bit of time, and LucifroN's got to start queuing these ships. VortiX is going to be adding a second dock with him as well. So we're going to see now, just because of LucifroN might be adding a second dock for his side as well, how much of this Navy and how much of this early feudal time is going to mean something.
Yeah. Now, both these civilizations are getting some really, really nice landmarks here that help them economically in the feudal age. So Meditation Garden, for one, we talked about, provides a lot of resource passively. Out on the map, I would actually love VortiX to just park a scout on it. Like, check right now what LucifroN's doing, but while you're not actively scouting, always have your scout on there to reduce the income by 10%. It really does make a nice little difference there. And now behind that, I mean, VortiX, with his age up, Imperial Academy, does boost up the tax generated on his building there. So he already got double VortiX as well. That's 64 gold that he got back from double VortiX. Meanwhile, LucifroN, he got it. That's 32 gold that he gets back. It does make a pretty big difference, meaning that VortiX can potentially like opt more into some demo ships as well, just because he gets a lot more passive gold there.
Yeah, and we both know that those demo ships, they can be used, and usually are used rather defensively, right? They try to claw your way back into games, right? You get a good explosion on a lot of those Springald ships. It could mean they could be taken down rather quickly, and it looks like based on the ships that they chose for each of these players, LucifroN going with a Springald ship, VortiX going with an arrow ship, it means that fights might be taken more so on VortiX's side than LucifroN's. Looks like VortiX trying to get cheeky with that arrow ship. Springald ship's got something to say about it, though.
Scout right now is parked on that. Look at that. It looks like LucifroN activated the ability on that war chunk in order to make it move quicker. Instead, he gets a couple more shots and might actually be able to get enough shots on. He does actually destroy that junk. Huge value gain for him there. It looks like VortiX even pulled a couple of fishing ships in order to try and repair that on the way back. Doesn't manage to successfully do so, and now he's only got his one war junk, with which he will have to defend.
Yeah, and now, I mean, just because of that first archer ship, right? It almost feels like a gamble. You know, it really feels like rock, paper. I will say rock, paper instead of rock, paper, scissors, because nobody really goes for a demo ship first. But, you know, you got to make sure you make the right ship first, you know? And a lot of times you're kind of guessing. And with VortiX making the arrow ship first, it means he's going to be a little bit disadvantaged. Just like you said on that Meditation Gardens, VortiX's scout disturbing the peace a little bit. And that 10%, even though it equates to mathematically that 5 per minute, maybe that means he has to wait a little bit more ticks before getting something like an arrow slit or getting something like a demo ship or a Springald ship.
I love this play from LucifroN. He's making a dock in the middle of the map as he just has enough stone now for his first naval emplacement. He's just going to put on more and more pressure on VortiX right now. He's already got more ships and double demo ship now in queue.
Yeah, and getting that middle dock and getting that arrow slits there, you kind of cement your place on the island, right? When you have the most forward dock getting arrow slits, and then it almost feels like on land, you could just incrementally creep up almost if you're able to take down other docks and all of that kind of stuff. So LucifroN has his half very segmented. We're making sure that he's doing okay. That one arrow ship does take down that demo. It looks like the Springald ships did help as well. But looking at military count here, we do see LucifroN at a little bit extra. And you're right, Crackedy. Based on where this battle is ending up, this could end really quickly.
Yeah, Barbican of the Sun now also going up for VortiX. Meanwhile, another dock gets put up forward by LucifroN. The emplacement crawl, it's real. LucifroN's just plastering docks all over the shoreline there.
Yeah, and why not? You know, they're going to be safe. You know, LucifroN's doing a good job of making sure VortiX stays within his own docks, right? Just because LucifroN does have a little bit more ships, just because of the ships that were chosen at first, 27 to 22. And even just doing that little bit of back and forth, right? As long as that, well, LucifroN scout does go down by the Barbican, but doing that little bit of back and forth on water, just make sure you can just keep creeping up, and that's okay.
A lot of demo ships out on the map right now for LucifroN. Look at that emplacement. Means that VortiX, he can't really push out right now. And there's another dog right next to the first one from VortiX here as well. Villager on the shoreline does get sniped. Archer ships need to be careful. Right now, VortiX does have the upper hand when it comes to the Springald ships. Now the demos, they're doing the dance. They're doing the dance. This is something that can really only do with like these normal demo ships. Like Ruse can't do that. But it looks like the demo ships did manage to find their targets. And now VortiX might be able to buy himself a little bit of breathing room. Behind that, he's in the Song Dynasty. He's getting more villagers out than LucifroN. If he's able to keep this up for the next like 4 or 5 minutes, he's gonna take the lead.
And that's a big what-if factor, right? Because LucifroN, he did have some ships go down, some demo ships obviously go down, but I know for LucifroN, he's spending that stone, and he's getting up on those arrow slits, which begs the question, whatever forward dock he has, is it going to be able to take hits while VortiX is behind his own docks? And that's when your defenses are completely breached.
LucifroN's just making only demo ships right now. VortiX started to add his own demo ships in. He's on 3 archer ships. Is that going to be enough, though? Because LucifroN, with his micro, I could imagine that he just spreads out all of those demo ships in the end and goes for a big surround. And it looks like LucifroN might actually go up to Castle Age soon.
I was just going to say, look what he's doing with his resource management. I mean,
yeah, the market.
he stabilized a little bit in terms of, like, you know, his fishing has been rather untouched. He's continuing to push the pressure with not boats. He's pushing the pressure with docks and naval arrow slits. And that's pretty much it. There might be enough Springald ships to try to take down that dock, but is trying to get a little bit of a fight. It looks like VortiX is. There are a couple archer ships, and it looks like the demos are going more so for the docks than the ships. Maybe that arrow ship, those demo ships kind of closing in on him just a little bit. Maybe he gets a big hit. Not so much.
Nope. Not a connection there. That's a lot of demo ships that just went down, and VortiX is reinvesting. Ultimately, not a really good trade, and now LucifroN, he's about to hit that Age-up. Shaolin Monastery is about to finish. Is he immediately going to go for tax on water? If he immediately gets the tag for the bonus health on water, that's going to help him a lot in the coming fights.
Yeah, having that little bit is so crucial, because he doesn't have the quantity, right? He might be able to try to even it out just in terms of quality, and we'll see if he's able to do that. Really good micro out of both of these players. There's no big demo hits out of both sides. Looks like maybe there was one of them, and now as soon as I say that, there's 5 demo ships coming in. It looks like a decent amount of VortiX ships go down. He's got to do the splits with a lot of his Springald ships. That bought LucifroN some time. If he wants to get more ships, if he wants to get them with a little bit more quality, those demo ships were absolutely the MVP for that.
Yeah, but now behind that, we're going to be seeing some knights coming out. VortiX doesn't have any spearmen out yet. Not even sure if he did scout that. Does have a scout over there, so does have the option to, but it's a lot of stuff happening right now at the same time. Still no water upgrades that came in for LucifroN. Demo ship gets sniped by the Springald ships. Archer ships take care of LucifroN's demo ships. Still, there are some docks with emplacements. Knight is now going to make his way into the wood line from VortiX. Can VortiX hold here? He still doesn't have any military out on land. Didn't even notice that his opponent hit Castle Age because the Imperial official is going down. I still see no reaction here at all from VortiX to that. He's getting outposts up. This feels like it might just be a little bit too late because the Knights, they are killing villagers now. Doesn't have stone to upgrade the outposts.
Those outposts are going to be firing arrows, but against those Lancers, they have so much armor, not really sure if it matters. And a lot of the times for VortiX, all of these villagers that end up getting vacated, they'd rather be chopping wood right now. They got one IO that ends up going down. A second one is going to end up going down as well. So you're losing that 20% bonus. So LucifroN, he's not taking the battle on water. He didn't necessarily care about getting a lot of those dock improvements. He just wants to make sure VortiX can't make more than what he already has.
At the same time, the water fight going on, both these players just reacting on so many different angles at the very same time. There's so much micro going on right now. VortiX looks like he has the upper hand right now, but the demo ships, they do connect. A lot of ships just went down there for VortiX, losing 5 ships in the blink of an eye. At the same time, LucifroN also missing out and losing 2 ships to a demo. Oh, 4 ships potentially going down. That's another 2 war junks going down, and you can't take these kind of losses right now. These players are just stretched with their attention right now across so many spaces at the same time. VortiX looks like he's able to hold his wood line against the Knights. But honestly, there's just so much attention splitting going on right now between these 2 players. LucifroN at the same time behind all of this, grabbing relics as well. Doing such a great job of just playing the map here. Another demo comes out, and LucifroN, he just sniped the archer ship. This demo could be huge. And indeed, we'll get a big connection. Another war junk is going down, and LucifroN with equal numbers. GG gets called. VortiX is going to call it. LucifroN takes the first game.
Man, and that's the thing that's got to be frustrating for VortiX too, because LucifroN, he quote unquote went greedy, right? He went Castle Age. He spent the resources to get Castle Age. So that means, he spent a decent amount of time getting food and getting gold, so you should have more ships and you should be able to kind of take it to him. But LucifroN just making demos and making VortiX continue to back up over and over again. And you got to think, well, it's kind of like shotgun theory, right? 15 pellets hit the wall, one of them's going to stick, or two of them's going to stick. That's exactly what he did with the demo ships. He built so many, and he's like, well, one of them is going to have a good hit. Two of them are going to have a good hit. And if they do, the game ends, right? Because VortiX can't get that push. They did have some good hits. He got those Lancer raids also to kind of idolize that wood economy or stabilize, his own compared to what VortiX was having. And easy GG for LucifroN. That's a 1-0 series lead. And look at this, Crackedy. Our first Order of the Dragon sighting for today.
Yeah, Out of the Dragon. I mean, we talked about before the stream went live. OTD right now, the best win rate in the tournament, so far ahead compared to the rest. But they've only got 3 games played, so it's not really something that you can really, bank on. It's it's not really like with 3 games, the statistics they're a little bit screwed. So got to take those stats with a grain of salt there. It's also the first time that we're seeing Mongols today. So OTD versus Mongols, we've seen it a couple of times so far. Spearmen from OTD, they can really do a great job against the Mongols early on. But the mass from Mongols, typically so far from what I've seen, tends to overwhelm them a little bit. Gonna have to wait and see how exactly the micro plays out here, because this is very much about the micro, about the spear micro early on there. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the more interesting matchups, especially since it's like very much Dark Age aggression, but with unique units.
And, I feel like for Order of the Dragon, because a lot of people, and I know you probably see it on the AoE4 Learn tab, that Order of the Dragon is apparently a 1-star civilization, and it's easy to play. But if you are not microing your individual units, you got to remember, you do not get as many units as your other opponent that you are playing. If you are not microing those units, and a lot of them go down frivolously, that's so many resources, and that can cost you the game, especially in Dark Age. Just like you said, you have Mongols making spearmen 2 at a time, even though they're normal spearmen. Order the Dragon, they're going to have, these big, beefy spearmen, and we're going to see how big their spears are, but it's more about how you use it. Because if you micro, right? If you're microing those spears and you're making sure you're getting good hits and you're not letting them go down, you might be able to snowball a game where the Mongols, they want to be aggressive against you, but all of a sudden they're on the back foot.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be having OTD versus Mongols coming up very, very shortly. Something as well to take note of is at any one point, one of these 2 players might be able to like go greedy and get a dock up. Especially on a map like Mongolian Heights, the stretch of the river is really, really wide. So you do have the option of potentially like hiding a dock in the corner that your opponent might not see immediately.
And this is interesting too, because for Order of the Dragon, the one thing that they don't get that's gilded is fishing boats. So having them making docks and having them getting fishing boats would be something that I would be perplexed to see and what I would enjoy seeing. But now we're going to actually know what we're going to see in game number 2. LucifroN playing as the color yellow, as the Order of the Dragon does have one of those dragon villagers coming up, might be able to make a dock. VortiX, his opponent, playing as the color blue, as the Mongols spawning in on the eastern side of the map. And it looks like for Order of the Dragon, they will be trying to get that dock up. I do think that because, it's going to take a lot of wood for you to do this, right? Because you get the dock, you get, your fishing boats or whatever. But to protect it, you need a barracks. And then you need spearmen with it. Which spearmen, they're not 60-20 for Order of the Dragon. They're 120 and 40 wood, which is a little bit of wood. So are you able to do everything to make sure your dock is safe?
That's going to be the question here. LucifroN does decide to take the risk. I mean, the OTD villagers at the beginning, they do gather really, really quickly, right? So compared to other civilizations, you get 5 villagers that gather 28% faster. So in theory, you're like already ahead by like half a villager-ish when it comes to efficiency at the beginning. After that, it starts to get a little bit closer just because it takes longer to produce villagers, takes a little bit more resource to train them as well. Yeah, I think maybe LucifroN knows the timing and is going to be able to thread the needle. I'm going to say that it's going to be close here. Second fishing ship is going to be in queue. I don't think he can make a third one before he drops the barracks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think based on what LucifroN is doing in his villager allocation, I think he agrees with you as well. Because you see, he's got 3 still on sheep. And he has another villager who's getting shoreline fish at a rather impressive rate because it's a dragon villager. So, you know, he will be trying to get food in some place other than a fishing boat. And usually, you know, for players, you'll see them making a decent amount of fishing boats so they can go up on just fish and just kind of snowball from there. LucifroN not going that way. And he knows that Mongolian barracks do pump out 2 at a time like Noah's Ark, and we're going to see it. Khan does see the barracks. LucifroN adding a barracks of his own, and he will be making sure, just based on how much food he has, how much he has allocated on wood, he will be able to get a spearman immediately.
Oh, it's going to look to be an outpost as well, potentially from VortiX. Either that or his own dock. Doesn't have that many villagers on wood, though, so I don't imagine that it's going to be a dock instead. I believe he's going to try and sneak an outpost up, potentially on the gold from LucifroN, which could be quite devastating because at one point these players might want to macro up to Castle Age. And if then LucifroN finds himself in a position where he actually can't access gold from the get-go, this could be hurting him a lot. And yeah, indeed, it is going to be an early outpost that is going to be going up on the gold. He's just setting this up early ahead of time. And yeah, he, for now, completely even ignores the dock.
Yeah, and this makes a lot of sense because now LucifroN has to pick one, right? He could do things like stop a tower rush, probably with a gilded spearman. They do a decent amount of damage on that villager, and they might have to vacate. But if he goes over there, that means his dock's not protected, right? So you only have 1 spearman. We see where that spearman is. He's trying to do something against the Mongolian spears. Second spearman of the gilded variety is going to be trying to help out, make sure that dock is preserved. But at the same time, because those units are there, VortiX can pull the spears that are protecting that villager. That tower goes up, lickety split, no problem.
Outpost is going to be coming up now soon, and I mean, LucifroN, he hasn't even scouted that yet, doesn't know that it's coming up. He's 2 spears compared to 8 spearmen. The numbers don't really add up right now, and LucifroN, he's got so much food in the bank right now. Not nearly enough wood to produce any more units right now. I'm wondering what he's doing right now. Is he even going on gold? Something's all wrong here right now with the macro.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he's attempting to do. I mean, he does have another spearman in the queue, so he's going to continuously fight in Dark Age. You got to take a look at that tower, make sure that those 2 golds, and actually there's 4 golds. There's 4 golds around that kind of vicinity, so it's going to be difficult for him to go. He's got to go all the way on the western side. LucifroN's trying to do something to try to take down the spearmen of VortiX, but having that con and having that arrow to move those spearmen rather quickly, he can't make enough spearmen in time for this.
Yeah, it's just not quickly enough. I think maybe LucifroN even needs a second barracks. The thing is, at this point in time, the fishing ships, they've paid themselves off. But you can't, like, the issue is behind this, VortiX is actually going up to feudal age pretty quickly. He's had a single villager on gold for a long time. And that's actually slowly but surely enabled him to get enough gold in to be able to go up to feudal age. And now, I mean, we can see here the spearmen, they're just not strong enough. They're trying to pick off the weak spearmen, but every now and then they're just getting microed back, the weak spears that is. And right now, LucifroN's army just not in a good enough position. Deerstones is now coming up here from VortiX, and LucifroN, yeah, he lost all of his spearmen. That might just already be GG.
Yeah.
I think as soon as the age up comes in, he's just going to call it.
No, he's just gonna call it right now. Let's just move on. You know what? I don't even want to talk about it. LucifroN's like, everyone shut up. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just go on to game 3.
I got like we just gotta mention it. We already talked about it before. Games between these 2 brothers, they don't go long. These 2 brothers, they practice against each other constantly. They know when they've lost, or they know when they think that they've lost, and that's when they just call it. That's when they just call it. It's usually how it happens in games against these 2 brothers. I got a nice analogy, for example. So against VortiX, I don't think I've won like 5, maybe 6 games against VortiX. In none of them have I even burnt out a single one of his landmarks. Usually he gives up before. He's one of those players that knows, or like one of the players that knows when he's beat. He's not going for these really long games with like a potential, like a 10%, maybe 5% potential of like coming back in the game, he calls the game before that. And we can see it here. Game gets called between two brothers. And yeah, it looks like we're going to be having an equalizer now. 1-1 between the brothers.
I think it's pretty interesting here for game number 2, with this Order of the Dragon and Mongols matchup, because I get, we talked about how Order of the Dragon is the number 1 civ because they're 2-1, they're 67%. That's kind of a big deal. But is this a throwaway from LucifroN? Getting rid of VortiX's Mongols here on Mongolian Heights means this next map that we see here for map number 3, which is Golden Heights, means he can't play Mongols on this one. So could he just be setting himself up for a better game 3?
We're going to be seeing English versus HRE now on Golden Heights. And I gotta say, like, English, they do look pretty solid on Golden Heights. They send 2-3 villagers out. One thing that we gotta say though is we saw this matchup between LucifroN and Beastie. It also was a really quick game. You have to scout properly, because in that game, if I recall correctly, Beastie, he sent a villager forward. LucifroN scouted the villager initially, then lost track of him, and then that villager built a barracks instead of a dock. And LucifroN sent the villagers out trying to find the dock from Beastie, never found it. Then suddenly Spearmen arrive, and it was GG from there. Between the two brothers, I don't think that situation is going to occur unless VortiX specifically wants to make it occur. But then I think LucifroN at this point in time probably knows how to react to it appropriately.
And that's a really heads-up play. I know that's not the series that's going on right now, but BC putting, because you see that villager and you're like, oh yeah, of course. You're going to see a dock going up. No problem. And then all of a sudden it's a barracks. And then you have some kind of, military units against you, and you're like, whoa, hold on just a minute. I was expecting a dock. I was expecting some fishing boats. I thought we were going to fish in peace. And Golden Heights is one of those maps that, it's interesting because Holy Island, is kind of, almost half and half. There's a little bit more land, than the water. But Golden Heights, this map is probably about 15% water, but it dictates the game. So this is a rather interesting map. I remember when this map came out a long time ago, I was like, man, that little map corner decides ball games. And in this particular situation, it's going to decide who gets a hand up in this best of 7 now that we're tied at 1-1. So with English and HRE, Crackedy, I know these are good water civs, but against them, do you like English just because they're potential to make men-at-arms, or do you like HRE just because of their wood economy? What do you think?
I think in this particular matchup, I usually favor HRE because they're one of those civilizations that actually have the option of ignoring water and instead going for like fast castle age and just doing their own game plan and still like be very similar to English when it comes to the timings. English though, obviously, like it's really nice when they get that shoreline fish, that bonus economy going. But you can never like completely forget that land also exists. So HRE potentially going for like faster feudal age, putting up pressure on land, maybe even castle age. Burgrave could be an option as well. We do see VortiX being the occasional Burgrave enjoyer as well. There's a lot of potential for HRE to forego water and focus on land.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of variability, right, in their play. And I know for VortiX, we talk about how aggressive he is as a player. There can be a burger potential, obviously cooked, well done. But for English, I mean, when you're going against the HRE, we'll see what they can do. Again, it's all about winning that water in Dark Age. And now we're going to be heading off to game number 3. Hopefully, there's a transition. The clock is 0. Vodka, hello. There we go.
All right,
perfect.
There we go. Okay, game number 3 on our favorite map, Golden Hill, that we've got going here. 3 villagers from LucifroN playing in the color yellow as the English, already moving out towards that little pond that we got there. VortiX doesn't look like he's moving out with any villager. No, instead he's immediately making a barracks inside of his base, so immediately wants to send those spearmen over and aggress onto the dock from LucifroN. I like the idea with the proxy dock a little bit more here, but the dock, not the dock, the barracks in the base is also fine there completely for VortiX. Just means that the reinforcement, like there's going to be a longer queue there of units moving over.
I'm kind of interested because LucifroN sent 3 villagers over as the English, and obviously the English are a little bit different because of their short bows, and they're going to be able to pick off other units. But when you're playing Golden Heights with Crackedy, how many villagers do you usually send? Do you just send one? Do you send two? What's kind of your thought process?
Personally, like I play China, so I just sent one, no matter what.
Fair.
uh, but yeah, if you play another Civ, if you play against English, then I think two is probably a safe bet. What I like to do personally in that situation is I like to actually just send the like one villager one way, the other villager another way. So if I see all the archer villagers on one side, I'm just gonna put the dog down on the other one and be fine with that. I just need to get the dog up in the end. That's the most important part. Look at that. This is where the proxy barracks would have helped, because then you would already have a villager there to the same play that Beastie did in that one game where he actually made a transport ship in order to get past the walls and didn't need to burn them down.
Yeah, and I feel like it kind of makes sense because you're going to want to contest the water both on land and on water. So getting that villager to make that barracks, you might as well while he's on the way, right? So now, with VortiX not doing that and having that barracks right next to the town center, there's all this walking time, you know? English had 3 villagers. They were able to get over there. They were able to dock. They were able to wall. They were able to even get a fishing boat out before VortiX's first spearman even got there.
Yeah, the wall's already there, and now we actually do see a villager going out from VortiX. So the play with the transport ship is definitely still up for grabs. Something that LucifroN could do in that situation is extend the wall in the back a little bit and get himself like a little spot for his villagers to reside and be able to just attack with their short bows.
Oh yeah, that could be a good idea too. Even just having that a little bit, because obviously the walls are protecting the dock, but you're going to want to protect the villagers as well, because those spearmen, they will get up there. But we do see there's an HRE. Let's see. We got a couple villagers here. Is that one villager or two that might be making a dock? I couldn't tell.
That should just be one villager. Sometimes the spearmen, they can look a little bit similar if they don't hold their spears at any one moment. But yeah, it is going to be that dock now coming in here from VortiX. So transport ship should be coming in soon.
Yeah, and I feel like for VortiX, you kind of have to do this, right? You really don't have much of an option in order to take care of it. I think I wanted to take a look, at LucifroN's base here. Not doing anything in terms of production buildings or anything like that. He's still macroed onto food. He's still macroed onto wood. So we're not even going to see an age up at any point in the near future.
Yeah, neither of these two players actually having mined any gold so far, which is interesting. But now transport ship is going to be going up. The question is, so LucifroN, what are you going to do regarding this? Are you just going to let it happen? Or what's the plan? It's going to be happening any moment now. He needs to pay attention to that. Looks like he is moving out onto the gold now with 5 villagers, so a fast age up should be coming in soon. Villagers from LucifroN, what are they going to do? The spearmen are about to arrive. The spearmen have arrived. The villagers, looks like they just accept their fate. It's over. Goodbye, sweet world. Nope. Okay, they're making a run for it. They're fighters. They're gonna have to be fast.
That's all well and good, I mean, one villager does go down in this making, but you just spent all of this on a dock. You spent all of this making fishing boats,
it out.
doing all that kind of stuff. It's like this is such a hindrance for LucifroN, is it not?
LucifroN's gonna be the first one to age up. 11 villagers on the council hall. He wants to keep the dock up one way or another. Oh no, poor villager. He's gonna survive the first wolf. Is he gonna survive the second wolf that's gonna be coming in soon? Okay, he survived the first wolf. Hello, second wolf.
Wow.
Oh, he's gonna survive it too. I think it echoed onto the other
from the wolf. Yeah, bad micro.
Yeah. Gaia, come on, get real. But yeah, looks like that dog is gonna go down, and VortiX. Okay, never mind. He just started gathering gold. I was a little bit still. Okay, so HF should be coming in soon-ish from him as well. 11 villagers on the council hall, but it still wasn't quick enough to be able to save the dog. Dog is gonna go down. At least now, though, LucifroN, he's gonna be able to get a couple of longwomen out, and together with the villager, might be able to re-dog once again. Longbows, though, they aren't that great at taking down docks.
No, they absolutely aren't. I think, I kind of see what LucifroN was trying to do. You get the dock down first, you get your food going first, you're going to be able to age up, and get the council hall to get some longbowmen, and maybe it'll save you. But now that that's all null and void, that dock is down, everything is pretty much down, LucifroN is now going to send these longbowmen and just get aggressive with them on the base because he realizes that he can't take down that HRE dock.
All right, sorry. We still we're trying to figure out the robot voices. We're moving to a different channel. Hopefully Discord now works again. All right, should be back up and running now. Sorry, Tim, we did kind of interrupt you there.
I was like, what is going on? You're hazing the rookie, I see. Okay.
Longbows actually completely ignore water. They moved straight over to VortiX side here. VortiX did put up a couple of walls, so should be safe there for the time being. Got some fishing ships that are currently just running around. Arkham Chapel, though, is going to go up. LucifroN already on 10 longbows.
Yeah, and I think VortiX, I mean, just because he's still Dark Age, that Arkham Chapel just goes up. He's going to be able to now make Feudal Age units, but now you're staring down the barrel of 11 longbows. So you're just consistently going to be outmassed just because of how many longbows you're able to get. However, with VortiX, just because he has water, this is all about survivability. If he can survive the next couple minutes, he can able to make sure those longbowmen don't devastate his land economy, he's in good shape.
We're now also getting a blacksmith in for VortiX, and he's got men-at-arms in the queue. Potentially, we might be looking at a play where he's getting like the +1 Pierce armor upgrade as well as the movement speed upgrade for his men-at-arms in the feudal age. That way, his men-at-arms actually move quicker than the longbows do, and then he could actually like move in and take fights there against them.
Yeah, for how much armor, it's not that bad, right? For the longbows, yeah, they're going to be able to kite a little bit, but they're only going to be taking if everybody gets their upgrades. Those early men-at-arms are going to have 4 ranged armor. The longbowmen are going to shoot for 7 damage. So they will be taking still 3 a pop. But if he gets enough men-at-arms, right, and his food economy and the fishing might give him the capability of doing so. So if he's able to get a decent amount of men-at-arms, he can track all these longbowmen down. It's just these next couple minutes of, is he going to be able to do it?
There is going to be this window now, though, where LucifroN, his archers do 6 damage, and the men-at-arms are going to have 4 armor. In that window, if VortiX is able to take a fight... Nah, he can't take a fight, never mind. It's too many longbows. 18 longbows out versus 3 men-at-arms. That is never going to be a fight that's going to go well for him.
No,
Marching Drills is coming in, but that's also going to take a while to finish up. Longbowmen move on to the outpost, but outpost is at least going to be able to take one of the longbows down.
Yeah, and even just having those, that one longbowman that ends up going down, you still got 20, right? You still got the council hall working like 3 archery ranges, popping longbowmen out pretty easy, and LucifroN going to be going with siege engineering as well. So that outpost, even though, HRE has the ability for emergency repairs, depending on how many rams he makes, that outpost might not be long for this world.
Yeah, I mean, emergency repair always gives you a little bit of breathing room as well. Even if the ram starts hitting on that outpost, it's probably going to survive for 20 seconds with emergency repair, so it's going to have a lot of life left in it. The question now, though, is going to be, can VortiX actually produce enough men-at-arms? I think he's still only on a single barracks right now. He did, I think, make a lot more fishing ships out on water. I think he instead maybe needed to invest a little bit more into an additional barracks. Actually, no, still only on the 5 fishing ships. It's going to be enough. Men-at-arms are going to be in now. +1 pierce damage isn't in yet. Emergency repairs hasn't been popped yet. Ram is going to get pushed back right now by those men-at-arms. It's a little bit of scooting and shooting from the looks of it. Emergency repairs does get used, but yeah, the men-at-arms, it's just too many longbows right now. Even without the +1 pierce armor, which just now came in, +1 pierce damage, excuse me. It's going to be a tough battle. Villagers getting picked off there.
Man, these men-at-arms can't really track down those longbowmen, right? Just because there aren't enough of them. The emergency repairs goes up on that outpost, but for how long the emergency repairs takes to cool down, It just kind of delays the inevitable. Now
Big
VortiX pulling
villager pull.
villagers. You could see him on the south side. He's going to be trying to take down that ram, maybe, and I think he will be able to. But again, more idle time men-at-arms trying to track down those longbowmen. You can see them on your screen, but LucifroN doing a good job of... But, you know, these men-at-arms aren't necessarily a quote-unquote DPS unit.
Yeah, they're a tanky unit for sure. They're doing a lot of damage right now as well. They're able to catch up, but with this many longbows, it's only like 2-3 volleys in order to take one of these men-at-arms down. VortiX did manage to rebuild that one outpost that he had there on the gold, and he is meckering up to Castle Age soon. I think it's gonna have to be a Burgrave play though.
I mean, that's the only way to get him back into this game, right? That's the only way to compete from a militaristic sense, is to go Burgrave, and that's exactly what he does. He actually pulls 19 villagers to go on it. So these next couple minutes for the Burgrave, if he's able to make enough men-at-arms, if he's able to make enough units to counteract this feudal longbowman rush, he might be in good shape. But the thing of it is, for VortiX, when you get the Burgrave Palace, you basically just get handed 4 or 5 barracks out of that Burgrave Palace. You've got to be able to produce out of it effectively.
Yeah, I don't think he has the resource for it. He already exhausted his berries. That was the last food that he was on. Right now, he's getting his food solely from the couple of fishing ships that he has out. Doesn't even like he's getting the tech right now for the Castle Age men-at-arms. He's getting it in, but now he barely has enough gold to make 2 more men-at-arms.
Yeah, and if you're LucifroN, you're like, this is go time, baby. You just spent all of those resources on the Burgrave Palace, and it's not queuing anything. It's not making a unit. Yeah, it made the Castle Age, you know, upgrade, which is all well and good, but you still only have 4 or 5 men-at-arms that you upgraded. Longbowmen are going to continue to kite. That emergency repair is going to keep that outpost alive, again, for just a little bit longer, but there aren't enough men-at-arms to do anything. VortiX has to run home.
Yeah. And Lumbus right now, they're just doing such a great job here. Just hailing arrows onto these units. And VortiX, this was his last gold. Like, he doesn't have gold in the back of his base. This is all the gold that he's getting in this game. Let's go out. All right, VortiX. Potentially still getting gold now.
Yeah, which will help him in that department, but you know, he's got those 5 fishing boats, which are good. Those 5 fishing boats are going to make food. But where is he going to get food otherwise? Those deer packs and the berries and all that kind of stuff, that's in front. That's all the way out in front. He's got to keep making those boats in order to get some kind of food resource. Right now, he's at about 450 a minute. But I don't know if it's enough to continuously produce anything.
Yeah, I mean, the ram, it's taking down the barracks, which doesn't really do anything right now. I mean, he's actually using emergency repairs on that. He still has a Burgrave Palace, so it's not like he's really relying on that one barracks there.
It looks like LucifroN, look at what he's doing with his army composition, Crackedy. He's adding some men-at-arms of his own just to make a little bit of, you know, defense with these longbows. So the longbows don't have to continuously fight. They can stay there. LucifroN's eco, although VortiX has water, LucifroN's eco basically has not been touched. And look at this. Oh my god. He's going for berries down south. He's got this gold all the way on the eastern side. If LucifroN only knew that that's what was going on, this game would be so over.
Yeah, this is actually really good now. And he's got +2 pierce armor now. So it's 6 armor compared to 7 damage on these longbows. Oh, he has to be careful though. Has a lot of men-at-arms now. The +2 armor actually makes a huge difference. Takes a lot more shots now to take care of these men-at-arms. And suddenly, VortiX has an army that can fight. 13 men-at-arms versus 34 longbows. Men-at-arms, they're faster. 1.24 tiles per second of movement speed compared to 1.12. VortiX can win this fight relatively easily as well. These longbows, even with kiting, it's going to take a long time for them to take down this many men-at-arms. Suddenly, VortiX is looking to be in a good spot. That sneak with the villagers might have just won him the game.
Yeah, and I think so, because LucifroN, but that's the thing though, LucifroN's got to be thinking, hey, he's making all these men-at-arms, which cost 20 gold each. How is he pulling that off? He's got to be getting gold from somewhere, right? You got rid of his first gold. That would pique my interest. That would make me start to look at all of those other gold mines and see what's actually there. The problem is, it doesn't really have the ability to look, because those, like, no problem. So he wasn't able to find all of those outside food resources. He's actually going to call the game. enough men at arms were made, so LucifroN, he doesn't have a dog in this fight anymore.
Yeah, not having water, losing on land now as well. GG gets called.
Wow. I mean, these two back-to-back games that we saw, actually this one actually went a little longer than I anticipated. This being 16 minutes and being on Golden Heights, but this was such a back and forth, you know. And I think this is going to be, honestly, Crackedy, I think this is going to be a microcosm of the series that we're going to be seeing going forward, because that's only game 3.
Yeah, game number 3. I mean, best of 7. These do take a while. Like even with these really quick matches between the two brothers, I mean, it, the set does go a long way. But yeah, I mean, LucifroN, he did such a great job there of pressuring the gold from VortiX. It's kind of insane. Like this one sneak from VortiX, sneaking out the villagers when LucifroN wasn't noticing, and getting the gold there from the other side. Also, we had a little bit of market abuse here and there, trading out some resources, much needed resources. And in the end, VortiX manages to get enough for the +2 armor and enough minute arms out. He had the bonus food income from the dock as well. It just looked really good there after he manages to finally secure those resources. LucifroN almost had him in a choke point, but just didn't manage to completely choke him out there.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about making men at arms, obviously out of the Burgrave Palace. The food was pretty much stabilized because of he went for the berries down the south, but he had a lot of his fishing. That gold, he really only needed, 5 villagers that were over there. They're only 20
Yep.
gold each. As
I,
long as he could pull a couple villagers, he's okay.
I got that analogy. It's like LucifroN. He was like using both of his hands in order to close the mouth from VortiX, but VortiX, he had that one paper straw going through the fingers from LucifroN, and he was like getting
Yeah.
just enough resources there, just enough air in order to come back there in that game.
Just that little bit will keep you alive. Exactly. Heading on to game number 4 here, with VortiX having that 2-1 series lead. We're going to be on Lipany. It's going to be Malians. And look at that, Crackety. It's John Dark again. Aren't you excited?
I'm very excited, especially when I see the matchup that John Dark will have to face. It's going to be against the Malians. All right. Now we're talking Mali versus D. I mean, Mali, Mali is good. Mali is good against Jean Dark. I think Jean is gonna have to play very different compared to what we usually see out of Jean Dark. Something that I personally do when I play versus Malians as Jean Dark, which I've done a couple of times, like 2 times total. I go only infantry. I just downright go only infantry. I consecrate all of my barracks and I just pump out spearmen like there's no tomorrow. And I just pray that my opponent doesn't make archers. If they do make archers, then I go for knights. But if they just go for javelin throwers and dunzos, then it's literally just spearmen archers, and you just pump so many units out that your opponent in the end probably doesn't have enough units to just survive that wave. Just because Jean d'Arc units, they're so cheap, you can just mass out so many of them. There aren't that many civilizations that can really stem the tide there that comes out.
Yeah, obviously the consecrate helps for getting all the spearmen, and plus you got to be thinking about what the Malians want to do, right? The Malians want to do things like Kaboom and do all that kind of stuff, so they're not necessarily 100% allocating their resources to military, because they're getting their passive income and stuff. So hopefully, for Jean d'Arc in that particular situation, you have enough spearmen that you're just able to overwhelm. What do you think for Jean d'Arc? Because I've seen, people play Jean d'Arc a little bit differently. We saw the ultra aggression, right, with Jean d'Arc versus Delhi. We saw all of the units that Civ was able to make. What do you think about doing something like more of a economic play, going for a second town center instead of just beating your head with spearmen? Do you think that has any validity to it?
I do think it does. I just don't think we're gonna see it here from these two players. Like these are VortiX definitely isn't the kind of 2TC, oh, I'm gonna play this for a later stage in the game kind of player. VortiX is a head through the wall, and if the wall is made out of reinforced concrete, well, we're still gonna try it anyways.
Yeah, he's got to get you got to get some plates in your head if you're going to start doing that. You got to make your head turn into a battering ram if you're going to break a stone wall like that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, from games that I've seen VortiX play, that could be his MO, and probably Jeanne d'Arc is one of his favorite civs because of how aggressive that she can be.
Yeah, exactly. Malians, though, I mean, they do like to also greed a little bit with their cow transition. So getting a lot of cattle out nice and early might actually like hinder them at getting enough units out to deal with Jeanne d'Arc. On paper, though, I mean, Mali, they do have a very, very solid kit against Jeanne d'Arc. Even should she reach level 3, you got the Musfadi warriors, which are able to deal with those men-at-arms. If she goes for range mode, your javelin throwers are going to do a ton of bonus damage. It's just not something that you can go for range on in this matchup at all. The Dons as well, able to take down knights from a distance with the spear throw. The javelin throw is also doing a lot of range damage, so base damage is really high, able to pick off knights potentially as well. Overall, it's on paper a matchup favorite for Malians. I've heard time and time again, though, a couple of players saying, actually, Jeanne d'Arc against Malians, not that bad. It's playable. So, gonna have to see how these two players exactly play it out.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how that gets started because I know as a Jeanne d'Arc player, I struggle against Malians very, very heavily. But let's see what VortiX can do about it. His brother LucifroN spawning in as the Malians, playing in the color yellow on the western side of the map. Got that pit mine going, as all Malian players do. His brother VortiX spawning in on the northeastern part of the map, playing as the color blue, playing as Jeanne d'Arc. And Vodka was taking a look at some of these gold spawns because when you have Malians, especially if you're playing with them, if you're playing against them, where those gold mines are so important because that means, are you going to be able to get your pit mines up, number one, and two, are you going to be able to defend them?
Also, wait, that can't have been intentional, right? Like LucifroN, he's going onto 2 straggler trees. Is he actually going to try to like completely surround his pit mine at the beginning of the game? He might be.
That's pretty interesting, and because how often do you see that? I haven't seen that pretty much ever.
I've seen it a couple of times before. I'm just not sure what exactly the big payoff is there in the end. Okay, he's not going for it completely. He's getting 1 additional house out. So yeah, we're going to be looking at 7 instead of 6 houses.
I mean, do you think that ends up paying off? Because it's like, it's a little bit of a gold trickle, but I would have to think that it delays your feudal age at a time against Jeanne d'Arc, who's rather an aggressive civilization. You kind of don't want to do that.
I mean, maybe it's like 1 economy upgrade a little bit earlier. Maybe LucifroN did the math behind it. I know LucifroN is a little bit more of a macro player compared to his brother, so he definitely knows his timing around a lot of economy upgrades and like when to rely on eco upgrades a little bit more. Could be that he knows something that we don't hear.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would think for LucifroN, maybe that extra house does end up paying off. Maybe he gets to Castle Age a little bit quicker. We'll find out. School of Cavalry going to be going up with VortiX and with Jeanne d'Arc again. Having 3 vills on it, getting that School of Cavalry up rather quickly, and it means that LucifroN might be in a little bit of trouble in that early Castle Age, or that early Feudal Age, excuse me.
Yeah, School of Cavalry is getting rushed up. I mean, the age up timing is a little bit late now for LucifroN. I'm wondering just how many villagers he's going to end up aging with. He also chopped the other tree, or at least started chopping it. He's got 26 wood now. Maybe he's going for yet another house on that pit mine. Monster Quarry is going up with 5 villagers. And now he's going to be going out to wood again.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in this build, but I think it's something that if LucifroN does emerge victorious against a rather aggressive player and a rather aggressive civ, we could be seeing the birth of a new Mali build with just that extra house. You know, we'll have to see how it ends up playing out. I really like VortiX's feudal time here. You know, with those 3 villagers at School of Cavalry, just about 75% of the way done. And also, look at how much sheep he has under that. He could make sure, I know for Jeanne d'Arc, usually you like to go for things like those deer packs or the boar that Jeanne d'Arc kills, but he's got a lot of safe food for a lot of time.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on the other side, LucifroN, 6 sheep carcasses, only 1 sheep left alive. I mean, I think Malians, something that is really underused is the ability to eat off of cattle very early on. cattle actually still have by far one of the best gather rates for food for the Mali. It's actually pretty unique because teammates actually get a reduced gather rate that was nerfed at one point in time. In one of the team tournaments, it's been used quite a lot because you're able to like sling your teammate cattle very early on, then got nerfed. So that way, Malians, they themselves get the full gather rate from the cattle. Other civilizations get a lot less.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because I remember some of those 2v2 builds with Malian and HRE. I remember a lot of people doing that, where Malians would send their cows over, and the HRE would just get them all inspired, and they would be super, super big into Burgrave and all that kind of stuff. So I know it's particularly just Malian build. Take a look at what VortiX is doing here. He's pulling Jeanne d'Arc in peasant form out here. Might we be seeing some kind of outpost shenanigans, just kind of disrupt the Malians at what the Malians like to do?
It could very well be, and there we go. Outpost is getting dropped now. LucifroN already has first Donzo up, but the Knights are there as well. And one Donzo is not going to be able to deal with two Knights. More Donzos are going to be in queue. Question is, so is he going to be able to mass enough of them in order to like keep this outpost from going up? Two Donzos should be able to at least take the Knight down. Jeanne d'Arc, though, even in her villager form, has a lot more health than your average villager. Another villager actually coming out as well.
Oh, wow. I was not expecting a second villager. Now, Jeanne, not only with getting this outpost, look at how many hits she can take. She's 150 health, right? She can take a lot of these down. That villager could help her repair this tower. She also ends up healing by herself. There's a couple Knights that are going to be able to help out just a little bit. And just because of the amount of Donzos that LucifroN has, this tower goes up, and that's 1, 2, 3 golds that potentially can't get pit mine.
Yeah, that's a lot of value. Also, one of the Donzos does get picked off. That's a little bit of starting experience there for Jeanne. Just also now goes into her melee form. So is going to be pretty much impervious now to those Donzos. And now there's nothing really that LucifroN can do against these Knights burning down the pit mine. There is 1 gold on the far other side of a space next to the market there that he could go for. But it's a long way out.
Yeah, I think just because of how much time it would take to go out there, maybe he's trying to do the best he can to try to fight this, but oh my gosh, using that quick micro, pulling that Knight and Jeanne into that outpost to take down a Donzo. This is just the amount of time that you need to take down and burn down one of those pit mines. They're 1,500 health. They take a lot of torches. Doing those little plays, pulling those Knights, putting them in the outpost. The outpost does have arrow slits already. I don't see a way LucifroN's able to take this.
Yeah, it's getting reinforced too. And VortiX, actually, you mentioned it, he is going for a second TC behind all of this. On the double deer spot, that's going to be an insane amount of food income for him. Look at that spot there. At the same time, LucifroN is going out there onto that second pit mine. He is also just trying to go for the cattle behind that. But yeah, this definitely is a feels bad moment for him right now. Not being able to secure this one pit mine and subsequently also all the house around it. This is also a lot of bonus experience here for Jeanne. If that pit mine goes down, that's 15 experience, and every single house is also going to be another 2 experience here for her.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Donzos, I didn't see if too many went down, and I don't think when she did pop in the outpost that she did get the plus XP from that. So having that pit mine's obviously really going to help. It's going to make him continue to make more houses over there on that western side. And getting the second town center. So not only did he slow Malians down, but he's able to catch up a little bit with the second town center. So if the Malians do get that cow boom situated, do get those pit mines, that he'll be able to actually have a good battle.
LucifroN does scout out that second TC from VortiX just as it went up. He is messing up a lot of the Donzos right now.
Yeah, I see him at about 9 Donzos, and he'll be adding a 10th as well. And I think he did see, for VortiX, he did see that second town center. That town center is very in front, and although, you know, it's on a great spot, you have a couple deer packs, it's basically like an infestation at that point because of how many deer there are. Maybe he can mass up some kind of offense to take that town center down and stop VortiX trying to get as economically prowess as he does.
Another pit mine. Okay, this is actually a super interesting pit mine now. Just on the other gold there. It's still in range of the outpost. Donzos do push forward. Should be able to... not quite getting the snipe in. Quick garrison there on the units. LucifroN behind that. He does have a pretty good food bank, but it looks like VortiX is going to push out like for longer feud late here. Is now adding in double archery ranges.
Yeah, I mean, I really like to play for the archery ranges. You need them at this point, you know? I mean, obviously with Jean being limited arms, yeah, she's going to help with her Holy Wrath if she gets good hits on those Donzos, but you need some archers to pick them off. Now there's just way too many Donzos where if he keeps making knights, it would be game over. And it looks like now, for that fortified outpost, can't necessarily kill any of the villagers or deal damage to any of those villagers on that second pit mine. So surprisingly, he's able to get this very well. Still doesn't see that second pit mine over there on the western side of the map. So LucifroN could see a way out of this.
Yeah, LucifroN did take a lot of damage there, but overall nothing too bad. And he's still in a pretty good spot now for his cattle boom. He's also adding in the javelin throws ahead of time, so even though VortiX is adding archers, he should not like completely get overrun immediately by them once they come out. And also VortiX is kind of just letting off now off that side there with the destroyed pit mine, not opting to destroy those last remaining couple of houses. I think the boars are also still alive, so you could definitely also just go and take down some of the boars, send villagers on that as well. Just make use of the resource out on the map, get some more experience in for John, and
honestly, I really like this play from VortiX right now. I mean, getting that tower rush going, right? Stopping the Malians, or at least halting the Malians for just a little bit, and then economically expanding outside of that, where LucifroN, he's still dealing with this outpost. He doesn't even care, you know? While VortiX on the other side, he's getting poor, he's getting all the best food resources, he's getting all the villagers that he needs. This doesn't necessarily win him the game, but it buys him time.
Oh, nice dodge there from the units, dodging that Holy Wrath from Jeanne d'Arc. Donzo's just inching back just in time, not dodge it. One villager, though, gets left behind, gets taken down. Outpost is now getting focused down. As long as it gets down to burning, that's going to be fine. That's when LucifroN, in theory, can just let it go burn. Indeed, waits until it starts to burn. No, does opt for the last hit on as well. Now is just going to go back onto gold here.
And actually takes the cost of a Donzo. That Donzo did go down from air slits instead of just letting that tower burn. So I can understand why that gold is going to be a lot more safe if he wants to mine from that gold instead of this gold that's a little bit forward. He might be able to stop some other villagers from going down in that particular instance as well. But with VortiX having a villager lead now, making sure that, you know, the passive income from the Malians is kind of getting nulled because of how many extra villagers VortiX has, we're going to see armies of equal strength. I just think the issue, Crackedy, is the Malians just have this super counter towards what French likes to make.
They do. The one issue is, though, in these fights, is that you're going to have to micro a lot more as the Malians compared to as Jeanne d'Arc. Because the Malians, they will have to split up their javelin throwers into individual groups of like 6, 7 in order to be able to consistently one-shot archers. If you don't do that, because the javelin throwers have very slow attack speed, you're going to take a long time to actually take down the archers. And in that time, the archers then have the potential of cleaning up your Donzos. So that's something that you really don't want to let happen there at all.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that too. And I think with Malians, with enough javelin throwers, they could do things like, obviously they're going to be good against archers, but you make enough of them, you might be able to snipe Jeanne out of the battle so before she gets XP, because we talk about how much base damage those javelin throwers have. And they're able to throw those javelins pretty quickly. You know, it might only take 1 or 2 volleys. Jeanne gets nulled out on XP. Got to take another 250 gold. That's a huge loss. But it looks like VortiX, he doesn't want to take a feudal fight. Look at his macro. He's going up the castle.
Indeed, he does. I mean, he's got a lot of knights out on the field right now. This could just still be like the Royal Institute, get the upgrades, and then go for the all-in kind of play from Jeanne d'Arc. At the same time, LucifroN, he's got a good amount of cattle out, about to finish off all of these cattle ranches, 18 cattle inside of them. Then he can just also go up himself. It's interesting that VortiX is able to go up first, even though he did go for the second outpost. It means that LucifroN, he really did invest a lot into the military as well. Guildhall now going up, so it's not going to be that, that other landmark. You know the one.
Yeah, the Royal Institute. It's not going to be the Institute.
I just said it earlier. I just forgot it immediately.
That's okay. I mean, for Royal Institute, now that we have the name. We'll talk about it just a little bit. It really is just like that. It almost feels like a win more landmark, and it feels like a game ender. VortiX isn't really in that position to end the game with how many knights, and especially with how many Donzos is there as well. But with VortiX getting up to Castle Age, got to remember, Jean, she is rather religious. She's going to be able to get those sacred sites pretty much immediately.
Both players aging up. Renfrew on the corral. 23 villagers working at that VortiX. LucifroN really wants to get it in quickly. VortiX now immediately grabbing his veterancy upgrades, both on the Royal Knights as well as on the Archers. LucifroN, though, as the Malians, is going to get his Castle Age upgrades in not just cheaper, but also quicker as well.
Yeah, and I think VortiX feels like he's smelling blood in the water a little bit. He wants to get a really, really good timing attack when the veteran Royal Knight comes in, when the veteran Archer comes in, because we know LucifroN is going to take him a little bit of time in order to do that. Veteran Royal Knight does go in. It looks like he tried to burn that pit mine, but it will stay up and not burned for a rainy day. Still waiting for those upgrades, so VortiX trying to limit that Malian army just a little bit. The Malians, just because of these pit mines and because of this gold, they kind of have their late game economy already. So VortiX is trying to take it to him. The Donzo upgrade comes in. The Javelin Thrower upgrade comes in. Tries to get a Holy Wrath. Can't quite get it. And now you're going up against your hard counter. The Donzos are actually getting kited a little bit, just like you said with the foreshadowing, talking about that little bit of micro from those Donzos, making sure they don't get caught into harm's way. So a little bit of XP for John. Overall, though, kind of decent damage on both sides.
And the Javelin throws, LucifroN did the right thing there. He Javelin throws into 2 control groups, so he did actually manage to take a couple more Archers down there than if he just went for the A move, or just like select the entire group of Javelin throwers and just select all the Archers one by one. And VortiX, he's just playing this a little bit more slowly now, massing up more and more of these Knights, getting this really, really big Night Ball going. And the numbers from LucifroN, I feel like against somebody that like only makes Knights, you need like double the amount of Spearmen / Donzos, and that's not quite where we're at right now. Archer is still taking some really good trades against the Donzos here right now. And you gotta be fearful of Jean just hitting that level 3 very, very soon.
Yeah, that little bit of +9, +9, +9, it makes a difference. And if Archers, at the cost of a decent amount of them, looks like those Knights will get a charge on those Javelin throwers. They're a little bit pricier in terms of XP. Level 3 comes in. I think he wants to take this battle now.
Indeed he does, and he's just overwhelming right now with the Knights. The Knights just looking so strong right now. We see all the experience just getting dropped there, left, right, front, center, and he's just chasing after those Javelin throwers one by one. He's just keeping up with them. The Holy Wrath comes in, a lot of them going down. All the military from LucifroN losing its life. The reinforcement, they're just not quite there. More production buildings getting dropped, but it might just be too late. And GG gets called. John with the level 3 and the timing. VortiX taking game number 4.
I can't believe, I can't stress how good that timing was for VortiX. I mean, obviously, second town center helped. Made sure he got a lot of Knights. Make sure he had enough Archers, all that kind of stuff. But as soon as John hit level 3, as soon as she hit level 3, and he knew why he brought those Knights up, why he brought those Archers up. He knew that John was going to hit level 3 with a couple Donzos go down, a couple Jab throwers go down. And as soon as he did, as soon as you see Jean spawn that horse out of thin air, I instantly thought this game was over.
Yeah. I mean, level 3 Jean, it just hits differently. The Knights there as well. Look at that military graph. Equal numbers, but the Knights, they're just built differently. They take down any unit you throw at them in that mass. And truly, like, when you have Knights in that mass, there isn't really a counter.
Yeah, for how many Knights there were, I think probably at the time of that battle, there were somewhere around 20. And if you let a Civ like Jeanne d'Arc or a Civ like French mass up that many Knights, you're right. There aren't enough Spearmen, and especially with that Holy Wrath, or little whirly doos, as I like to call it, from Jeanne d'Arc, making sure that those Donzos are about half health, third health by the time those Knights get in there and take shots. Man, that ball game is absolutely over. But take a look, Crackedy. We've got, in this matchup, a Delhi versus Malians. Did we see this one already?
We did see Malians. We did see Delhi as well in another matchup that we had going on. But yeah, this is now going to be on Dry Arabia. We do have a redraft right now after the fourth game. So right now we're going to be looking at the draft. So still, Rus and Ottomans banned for both players. Uh, what else do we have? Ayubits banned for LucifroN. Ayubits picked for VortiX. Mongols banned on both sides, and English banned for VortiX. So right now we're going to be seeing Malians versus Delhi. That's also going to be an interesting one. This time it's not going to be on quite of a constricted map as the first time that we saw Mali versus Delhi. This time it's going to be on Dry Arabia, so a little bit more open. Mali has a little bit more space to maybe play around and hide a pit mine potentially if they wanted to. It's also going to be 3 instead of just 2 sacred sites, so a little bit more play for Delhi there as well.
Yeah, and we did talk about, just how you alluded to on the last map. We did talk about how Lipany can generate some spawns like that, where LucifroN had those 3 gold mines right on the side there. Now he's not really going to be dealing with it. However, what he will be dealing with is a Delhi Feudal Age mass that's going to be barreling towards his base. And we talk about the Malians taking some time to set up, making sure that they get their cow boom and their pit mines and all that kind of stuff. Delhi has a very, very different way of playing this game. And although a lot of people might say that Delhi is quote unquote one dimensional, the dimension that they do use is so good.
It is. It is. I mean, it's just so many units out there from the Delhi. It's really hard to stop the flood that's coming out there. Ghazi Raider is super, super solid there as well. And this is going to be a potential match point now for VortiX. 1-3 lead right now ahead of him. So he is really in a good spot right now. Can LucifroN take it back and maybe even get the equalizer, potentially the reverse reverse matchup that, like, not the reverse matchup, what am I saying even, clap back and go for a 4-3 victory there in the end. It's definitely an uphill battle now for LucifroN. And yeah, the reverse sweep at this point in time, it's going to be a tough situation for LucifroN as well. I think he might also, it's also a mental thing, right? Like, you're 2 games behind of your opponent is on match point. If you even lose a single game now, you're going to be out and your brother advances.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a small consolation prize in that. Obviously, with both of these players being brothers, they want to see the other one do well, but maybe not at the sacrifice of themselves, I would say. With the Delhi now with VortiX, I feel like this is just the civilization that you couldn't pick a better player to have it. His ability to be aggressive, his ability to micro his units properly, as we just saw, his ability to do the timing attacks that he can do because of what we just saw. Lucifer, I really feel like he's going to have an uphill battle here. And for VortiX, just because he is up 3-1, he could be at a thing where, well, okay, there's a matchup that I don't like, or, whatever that maybe I can quote unquote throw away. But VortiX, he wants to send the series now. He wants it done in 5.
Potentially. I mean, Delhi is probably, I would say, by far, like, VortiX is by far the scariest player with Delhi when it comes to playing that civilization. He's got a car. Delhi is his car, and he just took out the brakes. It's only the gas pedal that's remaining for him right now. It's a little bit dangerous. The government already took the keys, but he found a way to hotwire it, and yeah, it's go time. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. They closed down the schools in this neighborhood because of it, but it works for him. It works for him, man. Delhi is is absolutely amazing in his hands. Malians, we just saw them from LucifroN. He's gonna try and pick him again. Is he gonna be able to win it this time? It looked good for him in the first one until that really big fight happened, and that's just where Sean Dark is really, really good. If he can once again mass that big of an army and just really respect his opponent's approach, his military approach, then I could see LucifroN also being in a really good spot here. It's a very even matchup, but you just gotta mass up army as Somalians like there's no tomorrow. You can't be too greedy with the cattle. You should instead choose to also eat from the cattle. And yeah, that's the way it should be played, in my opinion, here from the Malians' perspective.
Yeah, there kind of is. It kind of feels like a little bit of a trapeze act almost, because you want to, for the Malians, you want to make enough units to make sure Delhi doesn't get the sacred sites, they're not able to steamroll you and all that kind of stuff. But you're also trying to set up your economy at the same time. So it's like, how much military can I make to get away with the build that I want to do? You know, and this is one of the things that I remember from watching AoE4 all the way back since day one, all the way since EGC Genesis. I think one of the best players, or the best player that I saw do this, was Viper. When Viper was playing this game, his ability to make sure that he could be defensive yet greedy at the same time made him just miles above everybody else. And let's see if LucifroN, because this is a matchup that can really show the potential that he can have, and we're going to delay no longer. Game number 5 of this one, LucifroN playing as a color yellow, spawning in as the Malians in the north part of the map. His opponent on match point, VortiX, playing as the color blue, spawning in on the southern side as the Delhi Sultanate. And let's take a look. We're talking about Malians again. Where's that gold at?
It's in the back. It's looking really good here for him. He's got another one to left-hand side that's also in the back. Right-hand side, we're just sort of on even grounds. But yeah, there's also 2 large wood lines on left-hand side. If he just waltz to them, then the entire left-hand side is going to be completely defended. 2 golds, 2, 3 berry bushes, large stone as well. That could be a really, really good spawn here for LucifroN.
Yeah, just that little bit of safe gold, or safe food, excuse me, while he's going through doing things like a cow boom. But the thing of it is the Delhi Sultanate, he doesn't want to give up that part of the map. You know, even though that's on the northern corner, he wants to make sure the Malians are contained into their base. Delhi cares about map control so much. And what's really important too is this game is starting to go to feudal age, and LucifroN continuing to get those houses. Is Vodka's looking at the scout, how many sheep we're going to get on either side. Make sure Delhi's villagers aren't in harm's way. They can continue to gather those sheep after the berries, just like that. I mean, yeah, they need a little bit of sheep, but the Delhi, that could really take you into something even in like the mid-feudal age.
Yeah, and the Delhi, they get another advantage when it comes to scouting for sheep. They are starting off with the berries as well, so they can just really take these really long scouting routes in order to try and find as many sheep as possible in the early stages of the game. And look at that, VortiX has found a good amount, but it looks like LucifroN has pulled ahead of him when it comes to the scouting. So is now going to potentially able to find more sheep there on the remaining unscouted part of VortiX's space.
And, you know, that's something that a lot of players might end up forgetting. You know, if you're in a lower elo or mid elo, you have a particular scouting pattern that you like to do. You go out to the middle, you make a turn, you know, all that kind of stuff. But look at that scouting pattern from VortiX. He just goes all the way near on LucifroN's side of the map, pretty much like right near where his town center is. It makes this giant loop just to make sure he gets enough sheep. Whereas LucifroN on the other side, he does go in the middle. He makes that little turn, makes around, makes sure he deposits sheep because he needs them.
Yeah, Tower Victory now coming up for VortiX. No surprise. Dome of Faith, I don't think I've seen it recently. It sort of went out of fashion. Mansa Quarry now coming out for LucifroN. No surprises there.
Yeah, and I think with how many, I mean, we've pretty much been seeing 5 builds on the Mansa Quarry and then 4 on the Tower of Victory. So overall, pretty standard builds from these guys. Now, when you're playing as the Delhi Sultanate here, against Malians or otherwise, we know the Malians have Donzos, but for VortiX, what production building does he go first?
Could be VortiX should probably open up with just the Ghazi Raiders as per usual, just to be able to like harass, be a little bit annoying, and just have the mobility on his side, keep his opponent inside of his base. And behind that, with the Ghazi Raiders, having the mobility and keeping your opponent in their base, that then gives you a window to react to what they're doing, see what kind of units they're making, and then opt for a Sacred Side play as well. Typically, against Malians, you just kind of go for like a 1-1-1 composition. Like you get the Spearmen out, they're just going to be like fodder for the javelin throws and a really, really good front line. You get archers against the Dunzos, and the Ghazi Raiders, for once the Dunzos get cleaned up, that's when you then just send all the Ghazi Raiders on top of the javelin throws.
Yeah, we saw that in the first series that we had. Having those Spearmen come in, and even though we didn't see Sofas on the other side, but having those Spearmen come in just to tank a little bit, you know, from those Donzos, making sure those spears aren't hitting horses, they're hitting other men, right? So having that ability and making sure that he could do that could be a really, really big for him in those late feudal kind of stages. I really like what VortiX does and gets the second Scholar. and we'll be going down with actually a blacksmith first. And we saw this in our first series, just making sure that you're getting those technologies going as quickly as possible, and having that second scholar to help you out means pretty much the first battle that you take, that quote-unquote snowball battle, ends up being pretty advantageous for you.
Yeah. LucifroN expanding onto that second pit mine now. The backside of space. Gets scouted though immediately by VortiX, so Scout does know about that one. Immediately sends a message, hey, I know what's going on here. I see your pit mine there. It could be seeing some... it's not going to be the Gazi race, instead opening up immediately with his own barracks. And Waypoint looks to be immediately going over to that pit mine as well.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. And, you know, I really like that LucifroN chose that gold instead of the other one that was a little bit closer to his town center, because you think about what the deli wants to do. They want to get those sacred sites, which are in the middle of the map. So getting units, things like spearmen, especially because they're on foot, traversing pretty much the entirety of the map, if you want to make that pit mine a point of interest, having that spearman over there and making them go pretty much the entire diameter of the map to try to take down that pit mine, it feels safer, doesn't it?
Definitely does. 3 spearmen now already out. LucifroN getting out his own barracks, his own archery range as well. Donzo's immediately going to be in queue here. And we are going to be seeing that 1-1-1 composition coming out from VortiX. Stable now gets dropped as well. So that's a good amount of sheep under his base and under his TC. Means that he has a lot of food to play with now.
Yeah, and that's going to help him transition when he starts doing things like cows. Maybe that's 1 or 2 cows less that he'll need to eat. He could put them in cattle ranches. Instead, having those sheep obviously going to help, and it makes sure your deli counterpart obviously doesn't have it either. So now we're seeing RB compositions out of both players start to develop. LucifroN going with archers. We saw that difference from our last series, the other one going javelin throwers. But whether it's an archer, whether it's a javelin thrower, it's still a ranged unit, and it's still something that a Gazi Raider's got to take care of.
Yeah. Lots of units coming out from VortiX right now. Already 9 military units out on field. LucifroN, double production building, not quite able to keep up with that. We also see some archers here as an opener for LucifroN instead of the immediate javelin thrower.
Yeah, we kind of see, based on that one, just the Donzo and the Spearman having a little skirmish with one another. The Donzo does beat them head up. You know, they do have a little bit of extra. I think they have one melee armor, excuse me, that goes with the Donzo. So if you do fight them straight up, obviously a Donzo's going to win. But that's why VortiX, he's added the archery range. He's added the stable just to make sure you get that 1-1-1 composition that all deli players should strive for.
Yeah, both Sacred Site are now going to be captured up by VortiX. Has a scholar on each of them. And LucifroN, right now, he is fighting with an immobile army, so can't really move out of his base in order to start to try and decap these Sacred Sites.
Yeah, and I'm thinking he might need to. You know, I mean, with 2 of these getting captured, VortiX can do 1 of 2 things with the gold. I mean, obviously, you only need food and wood for a lot of your resources, as we see a little bit of a battle coming in. Archers from the Malians trying to kite those spearmen. Gazi Raiders have something to say about it. And it looks like those deli archers with the Tower of Victory will be able to take down those other archers a little bit better than something like a javelin thrower. So a couple Donzos go down. LucifroN's got to back up again. This is the deli player getting the map control that they really want to have in Feudal. So this is really important for VortiX that he was able to take down those units.
Yeah, double military number right now for him as well. Meanwhile, LucifroN is investing a lot into his cattle boom as well. Gets the cattle ranches up, gets a lot of them out in there for the bonus food income. The question's going to be, though, if he can really afford that and still be fine, because right now there's this big stream of army coming out of VortiX's base, and he's just massing up more and more and more of these units. 22 to 10 military. It's just climbing up for VortiX non-stop.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue for LucifroN, you know? I mean, you're trying to get that cattle ranch going to maybe, quote-unquote, get to Castle Age, but I feel like if you don't sit in Feudal for a little while, you know, if you just let them take the sacred sites and go up to Castle, Deli will just steamroll you with units, because Amalian Castle Age, yeah, it's strong, but it takes, you know, a little bit of time for the Grand Fulani Corral to actually get going, to make sure those cattle are getting a lot of units, or getting a lot of food, I should say, per minute. And LucifroN's going to struggle if he doesn't continue to make units, and it looks like he is not going up to Castle Age anytime soon. A lot of those houses are getting burned down. javelin throwers from LucifroN trying to pick off some of these archers, but not at that critical mass to take down a full archer yet.
And now he sees that's a big army there from VortiX, still at double the military count compared to what LucifroN has had on the field. The javelin throwers are getting some picks every now and then, but if it actually came to a big battle here, LucifroN definitely would win that fight.
Yeah, and just because VortiX making all these units, LucifroN's contained. That pit bine's going down. He doesn't have an ability to get a second one. He does have a gold that's a little bit outside that could have a potential. Sacred Victory now coming in for VortiX. He's going to have all 3 of those sacred sites, and with that gold, you could do a multitude of things with that gold. If he wants to go up to castle, he can. He could sell it off to make more units, more production buildings. We'll see what he actually chooses to do. The javelin throwers might get caught out. Spearmen making sure they take some Donzo charges. Looks like there's not enough archers from VortiX, however, but still, just because of the sheer mass of units, javelin throwers trying to snipe some of those archers out. LucifroN staying in his base yet again. There's a very distinct pattern here at Crackedy where these fights are getting taken.
Yeah, but VortiX actually not taking the best engagement here. Didn't have all of his archers there from the looks of it. And did actually lose out a lot of his military force there. This was a great fight there for LucifroN, and now he's going to be able to rebuild that pit mine there on the gold. And overall, this was a very good fight there to take for LucifroN, and he can just boom up right now with the cattle behind that after taking such a good fight.
Yeah, I think VortiX needs to see this and know. You know, I mean, he has 10 javelin throwers here. He's going to be able to take down a decent amount of archers. You are going to need to pump archers if you're going to want to take down those Donzos and get a Ghazi surrounded. It looks like that's what he is doing. It looks like all of his military production buildings are efficiently getting produced. He has a lot of scholars out on the field right now, Crackedy. He's got 6 scholars, 2 in the queue for some healing potential.
That is a lot, yeah. If he pulls all of them, that healing could actually make a pretty large difference there. Scholar still in queue yet. Right now, just missing more Ghazi Raiders. He is getting a lot of gold passively. I think VortiX should also drop a market at this point in time and just buy a resource in order to invest even more in Feudal Age. Because I don't think Delhi wins this game in Castle Age in this matchup. Just pure Feudal Age mass. And now another fight is going to be happening. Surround with the Ghazi Raiders tries to come in. Archers, though, once again, they're getting picked off by the javelin throwers in efficient numbers. And I feel like VortiX, he just doesn't have as many archers here at the front line as he really needs. Or at least, like, needs to really go for the all-in approach and just take the fight. I think if he really commits to a fight, instead of just trying to, like, run and kite the entire time, then he might actually take a better fight.
Yeah, I think so too, and it begs the question. I guess we see a lot of archer corpses on the field, but where the hell are they? You know, there's 10 archers that are supposed to be on the field, 9 archers. I only see 2, now 1 up here, and those Donzos now don't have that unit that's going to be taking them down. Look at this this micro from LucifroN. His Donzos are always surrounding his javelin throwers, making sure the Ghazis can't get a surround. His micro right now, even though he's dealing with an army that's potentially more in mass, army value, potentially more also, but he's holding his own because of how good his micro is with his Donzos and his throwers.
VortiX has 800 gold in the bank. He just dropped the market, so does have the option of at least like trading out for more resources. Hasn't done so yet. Definitely starts to need to do so very, very soon. At the same time, little raid comes in on both sides. Actually gets a couple of villager kills here. 3 villagers do go down. That does hurt a little bit, but LucifroN, he's fully set up right now with the cattle. He's also eating from cattle at the same time, so 18 cattle and ranches, 2 cattle that he's actively eating from. That's going to be a lot of food income for him and just even more units that he's going to be able to pump out.
Yeah, now that everything's pretty much set up, you know, it begs the question that, yeah, you got some villagers down on a couple raids. I think you got about 3 villagers, but it's like, I don't know if I care. You know, I mean, you have pit mine get gold, you got your cattle's getting food, and you're going to be able to harvest your cows right from under the town center. You lose a couple villagers as the Malians. It's the one civ that if you are going to lose vills, I guess this one's okay.
Compound of Thunder now getting dropped by VortiX. Looks like he just bought a little bit of food in order to be able to age up. And this timing, I'm not sure how great it's going to be, what kind of unit he would make as soon as he goes up, if it's just going to be like mass men-at-arms in order to deal with this. He's going in for another raid with the Ghazi Raiders. The Donzos, they seem to be mostly out of position right now. There's a couple here and there that are trying to chase after the Ghazi Raiders. He's causing some idle time on the wood line, just running around right now. Sacred Sign in the middle is gonna start to get decapped. What's the age up gonna be for? I'm just gonna guess that it's gonna be mass men at arms, but then the Musafati warriors could serve as a potential counter to that.
Well, you got to remember, Crackedy too is VortiX has 8 scholars, and I saw that one mosque was completely full. It was 5 out of 5. So if he does want to get things like Castle Age upgrades, he might have the ability to do it. But just to the fact that there are no Musafatis out, VortiX is going to go for those heavy units. He goes for men at arms, actually going for knights at the same time. But with a lot of Donzos out, that's a lot of resources you're throwing into a cavalry unit.
The Men at Arms, though, is going to be a great meat shield here, not just against the Javelin Thrust, but also against the the Donzos. And in combination, if he gets some good raids or some good surrounds in with the Knights combined with the Ghazi Raiders, could still be really good for him. He's also gathering up a lot of the relics right now. The 5 scholars that he had inside of his mosque, they all got sent out now in order to capture the relics. 2 relics already in possession of the scholar. The scholars already have possession of 2 relics, 3 relics now. 4th one now gets picked up as well. And that's a lot of gold income that's going to make its way over now to VortiX. I don't think he has a single villager on gold the entire time. It's all just the passive gold income that he's gotten from both the sacred sites as well as the relics that are going to be coming in now.
And especially if he's making a lot of things like men-at-arms, right, that take a little bit of gold, he might not need that much. You know, I mean, those deli technologies, they're free. You know, so he's going to be able to crank them out, get some Castle Age upgrades if he wants to, get some of those Castle Age blacksmiths. You see village fortresses are coming up as well. But now that the Grand Fulani Corral is completed, this is the stage of the Malians that everybody does not like to face. Because we are going to see a boom of military units because LucifroN, I mean, his economy, it's pretty much done. He did everything he needed to do. Now let's wait for the payoff.
Yeah. Now VortiX is also going for the stone, so with the Compound of Tender, gets his keeps up a little bit cheaper. Gets the upgrades a little bit earlier. Question's gonna be if he's still gonna be in a position to take fights now. There's a lot of men-at-arms that he has, but LucifroN is also messing up a lot of these Musafati warriors now. The men-at-arms, though, do also benefit from the Tower of Victory, so it's bonus attack speed on them. He's splitting up his army, though, from looks of it. There's 3 Donzos right now on that one sacred site that are decapping, but the main army is going to be in the middle. VortiX pulling all of his units right now to get the to stop that decap from happening. Gets in time, able to take down the Donzos there. Sacred site is going to stay captured. It looks like he's also going to go for the 5th relic right now behind that. But yeah, we look at the food income from LucifroN. This is just a lot of income that he has going for himself right now.
And I think the best part of it for the Malians is it's all right next to his town center and build. He doesn't need to do anything. He doesn't need villagers gathering on it. It means he can send his villagers to go do other things, right? Where as VortiX on the other side, he has to, you know, he's getting a lot of those outside food resources, and those pockets are pretty much done already. Those deer packs are pretty in harm's way, so he might need to back up from them. So VortiX, and he doesn't really want to do anything like a farm transition because the amount of tempo that it costs him to do. So he needs to, if he's going to win the game, he's got to win it pretty soon, and it looks like he's going to try to take it now. A bunch of men-at-arms coming up against that Donzo laden front line. It looks like Musafatis are going to be trying to make up that flank on the northern side. VortiX going to be able to get a decent amount of a quote-unquote surround. You got some Ghazi Raiders, got some Knights over there, but man, there are so many javelin throwers. I don't know if he's going to get that full surround. Crackedy, this battle is neck and neck.
Nah, this battle is way in favor for VortiX right now. He's just taking such a good trade there. The Ghazi Raiders, they immediately went on to the javelin throwers there in the backline. The Donzos didn't pull back for that. The Musafati warriors weren't all there right now in position. And with that, GG actually gets called. VortiX winning the game. And with that, the set in a 4-1 fashion.
Wow. I really was not expecting that fight to go the way that it did and how convincingly that it did. I think in that particular fight, just because of those men-at-arms making that front line, I think it showed how powerful the Tower of Victory was, didn't it? You know, that extra attack speed, making those men-at-arms a little bit of a damage dealer while also tanking a lot of Donzo spears. Man. This one, like VortiX going up to Castle Age and what units he's going to make and, you know, what battles to take and all that kind of stuff. But he was able to reign supreme, use those men-at-arms, use Tower of Victory. Solid series from VortiX.